Hi, and welcome back to the Real You project. I'm so excited to get on to talk 3, which is about your life purpose. So, before I do that, I'd really love to recap and just go over some of the things that we might not have really sort of got over talk 1 and 2, and sort of where to get our resources from. So while you're looking at this, if you look at the where the title will be at the bottom, to the left of that, so at the bottom of this side of the screen, there'll be a tiny triangle, sort of an arrow that's pointing down, and if you click on that, behind that is where you'll find resources. There's also on our YouTube channel, so if you see the circle for the Real You symbol, it's got some subscribers by there, which I'd really love you to help, because there's only 6 of us at the moment. But yeah, if you could press subscribe on that, that'd be cool. But if you click on that, it also then gives you some options where it says channel and it says playlist. In the playlist, I'm adding as quickly as I can and where needed. I'm adding the videos to some of the things that we've talked about. There are in your workbook, there are RLUs to sort of click on so you can go to them sort of straight away, dead easy. But if you miss that, or you've not got the workbook open or things like that, you're just sort of checking out the YouTube stuff, then in there's the videos as well. So I'm just trying to make all the resources available to you as easily as possible. So that sort of covers resources. If you want to get in touch, please do. Needs to be sort of interactive. This needs to be something where I can be of service and to help for you. I'm really offering at the moment, especially while we're in lockdown, everything that if you get in contact with me and we do something over like a sort of Zoom or something like that, or a video chat, none of that will cost you anything. So don't be worried about getting in touch. When you have filled in something like your essential self and social self questionnaire, again, I can do that. I can send you on an editable one online on that, and that really helps you give a start to some form of life plan. Where I can see where you're maybe sort of struggling, or I can see where you just need some sort of tweaks that we've mentioned before. So all of this is there. It's it literally is just up to you. On that sort of subject already, I've had a couple of bits of feedback, and there will be feedback, things like this is too much for me, it's too much information, it's too long. All I would say to you on that is that just check out your reasoning for that, your self-talk. I would then say, really, is it a mindset thing? Because, I don't believe, and I really, truly, and I don't mean this sort of disrespectfully, I mean this as honestly, is that virtually nobody I come across is actually doing life to their full potential. Most of people, I'm going to cover it in a bit, have got sort of blind spots, etc., which if we just remove them would release them to all that they could be. But I'm sort of already sort of coming across a sort of a negative at times of like, oh, really, it's just too tough. And yeah, it is too tough. But you've also got to realise that when we do these seminars, they're over a day. I'm trying to sort of condense that into sort of small talks. And I know they say small and they can end up being 3/4 of an hour to an hour, but I'm trying to sort of make it easy for you. I'm trying to make sort of like all of the wording something that you can understand quite simply. But then it really is an up to you sort of thing, and I can be as interactive as you want. You can do it on your own as much as you want. The feedback that I've had from the negative, it's too long, it's too heavy, and what have you, which is cool, and I'm fine with that. But then I've also had lots of people getting in touch and saying it's really, really helpful, and they're starting, and I mean just starting the step towards their greatness, their true selves, their authentic selves. So just be patient and just be open-minded, please, because I think the new world going forward, after we sort of start coming out of lockdown, the new world will be very much more on mindfulness and how we are in ourselves, in our sort of deep selves, our soul, our spirit. So I don't think this is an opportunity to be wasted, really. Like I say, it's free. You've got nothing to lose. So all that in mind, please get in touch. Stay with me on this. Talks 3 and 4 are going to be helpful to build on talks 1 and 2. Talk 1 was obviously sort of trying to get you to understand really just what the importance of mindfulness is before then we go into our belief system. So I'm just going to do a recap on talk 2, which is the battle of the mind. I've just got my workbook open, so I'm just going to make sure that I don't forget anything. So we talked about the social self and the essential self. We did a video with Lara, my wife, on there. I hope that was helpful. If you haven't watched it, please do. It maybe you might sort of think, well, at the start point of it, it's quite gentle. We're new to this. We're probably both a little bit nervous, but I really felt that Lara really warmed up, sort of 10 minutes within the talk. And if you especially get to the end, if you're a person that's suffering from low self-esteem or on the verge of like depression and things like that, you'll really hear her voice when you get towards the end of that on how emotionally she felt and how she's doing sort of right now. So social self, essential self, it's critical you kind of start getting the essential self, because we want to see the real you. We know that there's a gift inside of you. We know there's character and fun within inside of you. Quirkiness, cheekiness, all of that. We need that. The world needs that. So don't be afraid on this bit. And there will be, let's say, if you email me, Clinton then you will get, if you want to, a questionnaire that's the same as the workbook, but it's just an editable one. You can send it back to me and I'll give you feedback on it. Okay, so I hope that covers that part of it. Who are you listening to? Well, if anybody has looked at this and then said it's a bit too much or it's not for me and things like that, then I would say, what was the voice that told you that? I'm just being sort of really honest there. It's like, well, what did the other voice say? And, what did it actually say? Is it too heavy? It's not for me. Well, who's telling you that? And if you think it's the real you, then I think you might be possibly wrong. So your limiting beliefs, a lot of people out there, especially with, let's say, low self-esteem, things like that, we are limited very much by our belief system, and we can change that. We need to start getting in touch with sort of changing our mindsets to know that our belief system is incredibly often wrong. It's been given to you, it's been handed down by generations, like I say. So, if you want to sort of believe what you believe, then, good luck if that serves the rest of your life. But I don't believe for a moment that what you believe at the moment is probably all of what needs to be believed, and it's on what it would be if it's true or not. So, have a little sort of think about that. Your belief system is incredibly important. It's your driver. Excuse me. And we'll sort of crack on with that. Don't forget that there is a lot of fear within us, and there's a lot of fear outside in the world, and it's something that you really need to get a handle on. Your unconscious and subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is 80 to 90% of your thinking. You're running on automatic pilot. Probably you don't actually know where that automatic pilot is actually taking you. If you look at a boat or a plane, you kind of just you stick it on something. Well, at least they quite often, not always, but most of the time, they would put something in the sat nav to say, I'm heading in this direction. They might get blown off course once or twice. They might have to reconfigure those things and tweak the autopilot. But, just remember that at least they know where they're heading. So trauma and forgiveness, like I say, I'm not going to do much on that because it's trauma for lots of people. Like I say, it's incredibly personal. I would love for you to get in touch. If you've got a sort of trauma issue, then, like I said before, we can help. I do recommend you get counselling if your trauma is really sort of deep wounded. But, I can help. So don't think that we sort of can't. So talk 3, your life purpose. Don't get that confused with the purpose of life, which somebody did the other day very, very quickly and didn't actually listen to. I said life purpose, not the purpose of life. the purpose of life, there's lots of Greek mythology out there, and lots of books on life purpose. The purpose of life. It's incredibly deep. I've got my views on it. I think they're quite sort of maybe a bit too simplistic, but I have got some on that. So if you wanted to do a one-to-one, I'm quite happy to go into that. But not everybody would agree with me, certainly not on one of these talks. But life purpose, it's something that I came across a video, and again, the chap that's on there, it's got something like 15 million views on TED Talk. So I think he's got something quite good to say. And he, for me, narrows down life purpose to something that is a lot more understandable. And I really would encourage you, probably before I go into this next sort of part, is that go and click on that, go and watch that, go and make some notes and see what he says. It covers, I think it's about 15 sort of minutes or so, but it's definitely worth a watch. If you don't do it sort of now, then and come back to this, then fine. But you can do this and then go back to it. But I would definitely recommend that you do go and have a look at that. I just, you could sort of say, well, what's the purpose of having a life purpose? Again, I had a conversation with somebody that said, well, just live every day as it comes. And I'm like, really? You've got something to offer the world. The other one is like, there's sayings out there. Was behind a car the other day, and it's like, one life, live it. And you're like, it's so sort of like flippant, isn't it? And it's like, and people get behind, oh yeah, live every day it's your last. You're like, really? Would you go to work tomorrow? Or today, if today is your last day, would you really? And would you really go to a work that you don't like? If this is how we're supposed to be, these flippant sort of sayings, I would say one life comes and goes quite quickly if you listen to anybody that's a little bit older. So I would very much sort of say, yes, we need to live the life, but I think part of what I'm trying to do here is to open up your mind to what that possibility is. And I would say one life, understand it so you can live it. I don't think, don't get me started on just those sort of sayings. So yeah, that's sort of covering, the initial part of, life purpose and what, do I believe that you should actually have a life purpose? Well, if you don't, I do believe that I see sort of older people that look quite sad and often bitter, and I think it actually drains in their face. And I really do believe that that's because they didn't find their purpose, they didn't find their gift. They were very much sort of socially trying to do life in a social sort of sense, so that they were conformed. Their belief system was poor. It wasn't open to new ideas and new beliefs. And in the end, we get sort of quite bitter. And I think for me, it's incredibly sad. I'm all for coming alongside people and helping people to all what they can be. So if that's my mindset, when I see somebody that's not living their true purpose, then it cracks me, guys. It really does. So believe me when I really believe that you do have a life purpose. And I don't know how that's resonating with you at the moment, but yeah, I do think you have one, and I do believe that you have a gift. I think sort of what the first question says there, it's not, I don't think, I know what it says, and the question is actually, who are you? Question one for your life purpose you need to know who you are. This course is literally eking out every bit of who you are. So when the guy says, write down your name and that's who you are, you've got to sort of like, when you do write your name down, just remember that name now comes with an identity. And if you don't believe that I'm true, and I've done a post on this before, but if you don't believe that you have an identity, one that is the makeup of you, just remember when somebody else rings you, and especially now with mobiles, you've probably logged their name in, and when the name sort of comes up, what connotation does that, what feeling does that evoke? is that person somebody that you really want to speak to at any given time of the day? Because we do sort of like know that there's some people that will come with a heavy sort of feeling and a heavy heart, let's say, and it's quite often it's a long chat. It's sometimes it doesn't always lift you, let's say. So, that person has got an identity. You've identified them with certain criteria and characters. And so other people, when you phone them and your name comes up, yours will come with either, a positive thing or a negative or whatever that will be. You will come with some form of identity. What I'd like for you is that when you're ringing somebody and your name pops up, wouldn't it be great if they always want to answer it? Wouldn't it be great if, even if you're in a sort of tough place, that they still want to answer it, because they know that they can be of service to you and you can be service to them? Because that's really, at the end of this is what's going to be one of the keys for you to really understand. And we come to it sort of like in questions sort of 3 and 4. But we do need to sort of know our value to others, and for life purpose, we need to get comfortable with that. So you will have an identity. What we're going to try and do here is actually sort of like look at that identity, but by doing a SWOT analysis. But first off, just try and sort of think about what identity would you like to have when your phone rings. That would be a great and just try and actually be honest with yourself and think, when I do call people, what do you think that comes with? You probably do know a lot of what you come with. So have a little look at that. And this is starting to with who you are. For life purpose, you need to know who you are, the true, authentic you, not the social contrived one, the essential, the exciting, the fun, the gifted, all of that. You need to know who you are for you to be totally free of your mind. So you know that the other person that you're talking to is actually helpful. So knowing who you are in all of its entirety. So the one that we see and the one that sits behind us, that's the kind of like the self-talk, the 1,300 words per minute person. This is all of you. So when you just write down your name, your identity, you've got a whole lot of stuff in there that comes with that. So who are you? Your identity. I'm going to sort of do a chat with, I'm trying to do videos alongside these talks so that you can just get an essence of what other people think of these things. So Anna did the one on meditation because that's really her gifting, that's her calling, something that she loves doing. So get into Anna's world, definitely. And if you actually follow her on Facebook, she is flipping hilarious. You want to see somebody's essential self coming out at times. What great dance moves she's got. So look at those sort of videos. The second one, obviously, with my wife, Lara. The third one is going to be with a friend of mine, or somebody that's become a friend of mine through some of the coaching. And she seems to really sort of like get this. She's going to be very honest about kind of doing what we're going to talk about next, which is doing to get to know who you are. So yeah, and your identity. I believe it's a really good thing to do is to do a SWOT analysis. What does SWOT analysis stand for? It's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And I did a talk a little while back on this, and bless her, she sort of followed that up with quite a lot of well, she didn't want to do it, so but I kind of like talked her into it in the end, and she chose some work colleagues and friends and asked them what her strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats sort of could be, especially on the sort of strengths and weaknesses sort of thing. And you need to choose those people wisely. Don't choose somebody that just wants to beef on you and just, give you a load of blurb, which is quite often comes with their own bias, and they might have some kind of reasoning behind that. So choose them carefully. Choose the people you trust. It doesn't have to be the people that you always agree with, by the way, but just somebody that you trust in truth. So I would seek 3 or 4 people out and ask them what are your strengths. You can actually, and weaknesses. You can do that yourself, but I think it's really important to get another version of that, because one of the things in there, you might get to know strengths and weaknesses, but opportunities is quite often other people see more in you than you see in yourself. So although you might know, like say, some of your strengths, you could easily not know all of your opportunities through your strengths. So speak to people that just will have a different look. It's what I would call a 3D look at you. We tend to just see ourselves in this sort of 2D format. We often sort of just actually don't really spend much time looking at ourselves at all. We see our hands and different things, but we don't really sort of look at us. And what I would say in that, what I've said to people before is, could you imagine if you had a camera kind of like looking down at you, and it was like a selfie stick for all day? You would very quickly see sort of strengths and weaknesses, and you would probably do some things sort of differently than you already do and have been doing. So one of the things that I did was a thing called, and I'll put a link on this, it's a course called Belbin. I think from memory now it's around about sort of well, they do different versions between 30 and I think £100. So the ones that are obviously more expensive, they just go that sort of deeper into of these things. But what I found is that it gave me feedback on saying my strengths were that I'm a good planter of ideas. So I'm kind of quite good with visionary stuff. I'm good at planting the idea, and I'm good at resourcing stuff. So I'll go and find out information on whatever it is that we're trying to do. My weaknesses very much were completing and finishing, because I'm more into visionary and that sort of side of it. I once it was near sort of done, I'd be off with another new idea, and I'd be off sort of down there, and people would be like, where are we going now? And so I've picked up on the fact that that's a weakness. So now I'm very mindful of trying to see things through, where in the past I would have just left it sort of half finished, which was very frustrating for people around me. And in the end, it was one of the reasons why I wasn't getting to where I wanted to be, because I wasn't completing things. So it's really cool, Belbin. It gives you really good feedback. But you can get this off your friends, because that's what they kind of do. And some of it they write and email to other people with a series of questions. So weaknesses, try and make them into something that's a strength. Opportunities, we've got tons, way more than we probably think, so we can delve into those. If you sit with me and do a life plan, we can talk through those. And I would say then threats are quite often, that's where your blind spot is, or blind spots even. So it's the things that we just don't see about ourselves that can often stop us being the true version of ourselves. So I would say that is a threat. SWOT analysis quite often is done within the business community, but I think it's a really sort of helpful tool to do on your life purpose. We would normally do in the seminars, we do as what we call a 3-chair exercise, which is literally getting 3 chairs together and having somebody that would be pretend to be the best friend, and somebody that would be somebody that you totally don't know, a stranger. And it's good to get those opinions from people that are close to you, and then also people that are not so close, that they might see something in you that without all the baggage, without all the bias. So it's really interesting and important to get sort of like as much feedback on yourself as you can. We're going to also sort of talk about sort of your gift and stuff, so what you do. So this is all about kind of like who you are, your identity, strengths and weakness. So what do you do would be sort of the next question. As being a hairdresser in the past, I used to sort of quite often, if you're in a bar or dinner scenario and people say things like, so what is it that you do? And I would probably come back with, I used to use the word badly, which would be just a hairdresser. And that used to sort of, I think, make what I did, it devalued it. I get quite frustrated with other hairdressers that say I'm just a hairdresser. In lockdown, we're suddenly maybe a little bit more important than we used to be. So, but what if I turn that question around and if somebody said, "What do you do?" and I said, "Well, I actually my goal is to make somebody look fantastic and feel fantastic." And then, so I didn't say I was a hairdresser. That's what I said I did. And then somebody would say, "Oh, okay. So how do you do that?" And then I would go into sort of more about me. Now I think that just makes sure that your psyche just carries your worth that little bit higher, and I think that's important to know that you have got a worth. I think self-worth is incredibly important. It helps us not to go down the sort of route of depression. If you've got purpose and meaning, it elevates you, it gives you worth. So finding out sort of like your gift and what you do. If you feel that you're not in your place of joy at the moment, and the work that you do is not making you feel good, then again, what we can do is you can ask a series of questions of where you're at. One of them would be, I feel most alive when. In the journal that I have, it's one of the questions that it does sort of on a weekly, sort of like looking back at your week, and it says the question, when did you feel most alive this week? And you look back and you kind of start to see a pattern, the things that the times that you feel most alive is probably where you are, where your gift sits. So when you really sort of like start talking passionately about a subject, I always say to people when I'm sort of doing some coaching is think about the things that you can talk about for somewhere around about sort of like the 30-minute mark with no notes, with enthusiasm. Maybe you need to get interrupted because you're just so sort of like passionate. You're filled up with all of that drive. Just try and notice yourself when you suddenly join in a conversation where you maybe for a while you're just sort of sitting back and just letting things sort of go, and then you kind of went, no, there's something in that. I know, and I've got something to say on that, and that's where you can become very passionate about it. I would say, look at that, try and exercise your mind in that, and try and notice, try and be that third person looking down and going like, well, why did I get all, what does that mean? Where could that sort of take me? So think about, when did you feel most alive this week, this month, this year? Even going back to some form of, maybe a few years back or childhood, just when did you feel most alive doing what was it? You've got a little diagram there, and it's called Ikigai, which means internal beauty in Japanese, and it's quite at times a difficult word to say, but I think I've sort of started to master it in that sense, but it means internal beauty. I'm a big believer is when you see somebody in their right space, somebody that's doing something that they love, you stop looking at the whole person as a whole. You start to see something beyond that. Something that sometimes you might even not be able to language, something maybe almost sort of like spiritual, just seeing somebody that's great at what they do. I think it brings, it's when they're in their joy, and it brings joy to others, and there is a beauty in that. I would say, if at the opposite of that, when you see somebody that's in the wrong job, like, if somebody's really in the service industry and they're just really not people pleasers, and you're thinking, why the heck are you doing this job? It's just, the opposite. You can see when people are not in the right job. There's a wonderful guy outside of Asda sort of helping people in the other day, and flip it, he was just laughing and cajoling. I'm like, wow, in this sense of sort of lockdown, you've got this sort of job which is, not easy at the moment, is it? Controlling people going in and out of a supermarket, but he did it with such great passion and love, and he helps people sort of drop their kind of, tenseness and anxiety that's around at the moment. So I just thought, wow, that was beauty in just seeing sort of somebody just, doing something like that, which is, it might sort of be simple to other people, but I thought, wow, you're doing a great job, a great service, and I really appreciated it. So internal beauty, that's what Ikigai means. So how could we sort of, if you wanted to look for your perfect job, let's say, and more of your perfect life, I would say look at these. These are a checklist, basically. So find out what you love, find out what you're passionate about. Does it give you a feeling of it's going to be something that you're going to have a mission to take forward? What are you good at? So make it something that's a profession. Look at things that sort of like you like as a vocation. So things like, for me, it would be vocational stuff would be like going into sort of sailing. I might want a job in being if I wasn't doing this, I'd like to maybe be a sailing instructor. So look at those sort of things. What does the world need? I've mentioned this before, sort of we'll go through it in questions sort of 3 and 4, but I'm a big believer in the act of service. Again, you see beauty in the act of service. That guy the other day was being a service to us, and it was totally a different feeling. And so when you can give out, so what you do is you try to learn and find out what is your why and what is your meaning, what is your sort of true purpose, what is your calling, what is your gift. But try and align that then to something that sort of, what does the world need? What can you give as an act of service through your talent? Being a musician, being a creative writer, there's so many things that really, really help people fulfill their sort of potential and needs. And, to sit and listen to music helps me mindfully so much. Well, what if somebody didn't write any music? So that is an act of service. That is something that the world needs. And the last sort of tick box in there is like, if you can get paid for it, so it doesn't just, it's not a hobby, it's a vocation. If you can get paid for it, think of those things. Think of that you're now in your gift, you're now in your joy, and you get to get paid for being those things. How awesome would that be? What a great sort of place to get yourself in life, where you can actually sort of be in your true part of your authenticness. It's just, what a great thing. Just signing off on this part with this Ikigai, I would also then sort of like think about sort of mastering whatever it is you do. This takes on this element of, and it's really a great practice because you get less fearful about other things if you try this. But one of the things that I did in my work, and I'm doing it now, like the first fear of making a video, the first fear of when I was a hairdresser, the first fear of doing a new haircut. It was like the first snip would be like, what happens if this is not going to work out? But on the sense of that, when you learned something new and you started to master what you did, and then you got actually less fearful, and it actually became something that you kind of almost got excited about doing something new. So mastery really does give you a sense of purpose, and it does become kind of like, who you are. It becomes part of your identity. When you look at and see somebody that's mastered what they do, you can't help but see the beauty in that. You can't help but look up to that. You can't help but to be drawn into that. It's a great thing to, don't just do something half-arsed. Try and do something where you really say, do you know what? I'm going to try and do this to the very best of my ability. I want to be really good at it. I'm going to look at the resources. There's so much stuff out there. I'm going to go on courses. I'm going to fill myself up in the world of whatever it is that you do. Mastery is so important. If you want to be the true version of yourself, don't decide to go so far and then go, well, I'll get comfortable. Because with comfort comes uncomfortableness. You'll be sitting there in your uncomfortableness going, I get 15 grand a year for doing this, and it just gets by, and, but, is it making you get up in the morning excited? So I would just definitely sort of look at that and sort of think, well, I want to be, I want to be the master of something. Sort of, it helps making your life sing, finding out your why. Anyway, so I've talked about that enough. So that's kind of like who you are. So who do you do it for? Really important. This is where you sort of find out, you need to sort of write out why do you do what you do. You could easily say to yourself you do it for you, which is absolutely fine. If there's only you in your life, then cool. That's not selfish at all. And if I say something that sounds selfish about this, please try and remember I've said this first. Doing something for yourself is not selfish. I just believe at some point, if you do it for others, it will help you have more of a sense of purpose. So find out, so are you doing it just for you? It'd be great if you're doing it for others. So if you've got children, you probably then would say, well, I'm actually doing it for my kids, to start thinking, write their names down. So, who are you doing it for? Go back, check that sort of video that I was saying. So if you get confused on this, he talks about who do you do it for? But I've definitely sort of looked at, would be my wife, it would be my parents, it would be my siblings. And to be honest with you, virtually most of what I do and have done for the 30 odd years that I've been self-employed is that I'm doing it for my team. I do everything. An awful lot of what I do it for my team. I do it for the good of them. I also have done it for my clients. I've done it it gives me a great sense of purpose and meaning. To send somebody out of the hairdressing salon, I would have always wanted them out on their tippy toes. I might not have achieved it every time, but that's what I kind of wanted to do. So who do you do it for? I mean, now, I'm hoping that somebody's listening to this, and, what do I do now? I come alongside people. I try and find out what is their gift. I try and find out what is their essence. I try to realign them on their true north, their true path. I wouldn't say I hate the word coach. It's only in there because it comes with that. Yeah, whatever. But for me, it's coming alongside, and I suppose, yes, coaching, but it's definitely coming alongside and releasing people into all of what they can be. That's what I do, or that's what I try to do. So who do you do it for? I'm trying to do it for anybody. It does help me. So there is a selfishness in that. What do they want? Most people, I sort of find that they want to be in your world in a sense of trust. And I think sort of most people want security from you. So if it's certainly family, I think sort of virtually everybody I talk to on a one-to-one would I think we all would like some security. So secure in your workplace, secure in your marriage, secure in your relationships. Most of that comes with trust. So we have to be trustworthy in all of that. So I would say, what do they want? They want those things. Check out what you think that they want. And I think the last question there for life purpose is, what do they get as a result? I would just simply put it as, if you sort of nail all of this, what do they get as a result? Some terminology on around love. And at the end of the day, I think we all need to be loved, and others need, you need to be loved and you need to love on others. We all need it. So what does that look like? That's down to you to sort of write out. But that's what I think everybody wants, is that at the end of the day, if you get these things right, the result is happiness. It's the true, authentic sort of sense of happiness, of love. It's not a fleeting feeling. It's not a happiness that's coming and going. It's your true self. It's bringing everything together, and that's where the life purpose actually sits. So get those 5 questions. And this is a great way to, life purpose, it's such a massive question. And we've managed to sort of bring that down to sort of 5 things. If you can get those 5 questions in your head: who are you? What do you do? Who do you do it for? What do they want? What do they get as a result? If you know those questions off the top of your head, if you can sit there, a great place to start meditating on those. So those questions, if you're struggling with meditation and you're struggling with going off with your thoughts, which is fine, by the way, but if you are, try and get those questions repeatedly into your mind. You will not, when you sort of like feeling a bit awkward and a bit off track, at that point, ask those questions. They'll probably bring you back to your sort of center. Just to finish off this section now, and this will be a great time to go and grab a coffee and sort of chill, but you've got a link there on your workbook, so you can just click it. It's also on the on one of the playlists and the YouTube channel, and it's called Everybody Needs to Hear This. I think it's around about sort of 5 to 6 minutes now. When we did the workshop on the day seminar, we would, before going to lunch, we would play this, and this will help you re-ask those questions, I believe. It's a great video. Jay Shetty, great guy, doing great work out there. Delve into his world, but watch this. What I would say there, it's got sort of notes by it. Whenever we put notes, obviously this is not editable at the moment, so have your notebook, have your daily planner, have your journal. These are the places to write the notes with. And so what I say to everybody now is, if you're struggling to know anything about anything, when you're listening to something, you will get a word that will, you and possibly only you will just hear and focus on that one word. There'll be a reason why that one word sort of that came up rather than another word. There's be another word that will just kind of like go past you. I believe that to get more conscious, and that's why we do mindfulness, is to hear the stuff that you need to hear. So write down keywords as he's talking, and then maybe either re-watch it or just go, what do those words mean? Look back at your questions, and you'll start to just help build your life plan there. So yeah, we'll just finish on that. So I'll speak to you guys soon. Keep in touch. Give me feedback. I might not always like it, but it helps me massively know where I'm going with all this. Okay, you guys take care, and I'll speak to you soon.